problem we're finding the product of two polynomials. So in a way, we are using the distributive property, I guess, twice. We can think of it that way. We have two terms to distribute to these two terms. So we have 2 here and 2 there. We get to just combine them all through multiplication. And what I think about is that we have the first term. We're going to multiply it out to these two terms. And then this term is going to be multiplied by these two terms over here. And what I suggest is to rewrite this in terms of addition. It's easier to keep track of that. Or to think of this negative here, subtracting, as being part of -5, and this negative being a part of -3. So when we multiply this term, we're going to really multiply out a -5, and when we multiply to this term, we're going to multiply to a -3, not a +3. And in fact, let me use that method because that's usually what I do, and there's a lot at work as to behind why that makes sense, but here we're just going to try that method. So what's going to happen? Well, first we have this term to distribute, so it's 2x times a 2x, okay, and that's a 4x squared. And then we have 2x times this term, which is again a -3. So -3 times 2x is just -6x. Why? Because, well, -3 times 2x, we're going to multiply these two coefficients to get -6, so it's -6x, and then we have -5 times 2x, right? But now we're distributing the second term, and that's -10x, and then -5 times -3, which is +15. And what's nice about this, using this order, is that we're going to get a term here and here that are simplified all the way. So we get 4x squared and then a 15. And that's going to be the case if we write things in this order and the highest powers for an exponent is just 1. And then in the middle we combine these two terms. So -6x minus 10x. Well, that's -16x. And what I'm just doing here is combining the coefficients to get -16. -6 minus 10 is -16. So we have our answer here, I think, is D. Now, other ways of thinking about what's going on here, this is often referred to as a FOIL technique. But FOIL has thrown me off, but I will share what it is. FOIL. Okay. Now, what FOIL says is that F is for first. So in other words, you take the first terms and you multiply them. O is for outer. So next you multiply the two outer terms, right? They're the outer parts of the two equations. This is outer. And then you multiply I, which is inner. So the two terms in the middle. And then the last terms, FOIL, right? These two last terms, so -5 times -3. That's one way to think about it. Another way, I guess we can think about it. Let me try this. Set this up. You could just think about the way, right, the order that we combine these things, right? You can just think about those two lines. You should always see 4 lines, so 4 connections between two terms within each parentheses, and that will give us all our combinations. And that's the way I like to think about it, because I just say to myself, well, I've got to take this thing and multiply it by everything over here, and this term and multiply it by everything over here. And if I do that, I'm all set. FOIL is helpful for these types of polynomials, but might confuse us a little bit for bigger groups. So let's look at the next problem. Here's a similar idea. So we have A as our first term, and we're going to multiply it by these two as here. So we have A times 2A. What's that? That's just 2A squared, right? And that's from A times 2A. And then we have the same term. We've got to keep distributing it to 2B. A times 2B. Well, I don't know what A and B are, so I'm just going to leave it as A times B. So A times 2 times B, typically written as 2AB, in alphabetical order with the number in front. Now our second term, -3B. We've got to multiply it by 2A. Oops. So -3B times 2A. And what I think about here, of course, is just the coefficients. -3 times 2. What's that? That's -6. and then a and b, I have no idea what they are yet, so I just leave them. And last combination, 2b times negative 3b. So we have negative 3b times 2b. What's that? Well, negative 3 times 2 is just negative 6. And b times itself is b to the second power. So now we have all this, and we're just going to simplify. We're almost there. So now 2a squared is nothing else that I can combine it with, so it's still just 2a squared. 2ab minus 6ab, well, I can combine those two because they both have the ab terms. So it's really just 2 minus 6, which is negative 4ab, and then minus 6b squared. Right? So there's our result. I can't simplify it any further, and the answer is A.